is going on, Wolfpack Nation? Hope everybody's doing well this evening. Thank you so much for tuning in here with us again for our Tuffy Talk live show. Again, we are so excited to finally get rock and rolling. I know last week we're actually missing Mr. Making Adams, and we actually got him back here today with Greg, Michael, and myself, Wade Smith here. And also, too, kind of a heads up that at some point today we are expecting that our brand new member, Kenzie Blackwater, should be joining us here sometime later today here. I know we've announced that she was on the show probably a month ago, and she still to this day has not been able to join us for the Tuffy Talk live show for a variety of reasons. And today she's... Go ahead.
I would say it's the greatest cliffhanger since Who Shot JR.
Right.
It's up there. And so... She was actually today. She had a job interview in Charlotte. She was on the way back, and it was funny. She said, "I might be showing up a little bit late. Do you still want me to join?" I was like, "Absolutely. We got to get you on at some point. Just go ahead and get you." Yeah, Megan said no. Can't hear you right now, Megan. Yeah. But yeah, what's going on, Justin?
So I was kidding.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Justin. Don't worry. We'll be talking some baseball here today, but to get things started off, though. So for those that follow us on Twitter, which, definitely got to do that if you haven't already, we're putting together starting now, a countdown to the ECU football game. So we are now officially 54 days away from NC State versus ECU and getting the season kicked off. And I don't know about you guys. Oh, Megan wants to point out the red hats and black shirts.
No, I was going to say, did you see? I think it was Corey Smith had a tweet that came out. He put it like a few hours ago, so probably tweet of the week. But he had like a picture of ECU has a sign. Yeah. When you pull up, look at the fire, it says like NC State ... You're on the clock. So
yeah, everybody's thinking it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I saw that because I think Thayer Thomas even put that on his Instagram as well. But yeah, definitely seeing that definitely kicked in some extra nerves for me for sure. Thinking about that game, because I'll tell you, there's two things I want from that game more than anything. I want to win. I don't care about how many points. I just want to win. Give me a freaking win at Greenville. And second thing is no injuries. If we can have no injuries, that would be beautiful. But because I from what I've seen too, and I'm interested in what you guys' thoughts are, but the lines actually, because I think the line opened up that we were like a 9.5 point favorite, and now it's actually moved to like anywhere between 10 to 11 point favorite actually for that game.
Yeah,
which again to me is just scary. And
that's going the direction you want to see.
Well, yeah, no, it's great. It's just like, man, that's a lot of points. But but that's why again, I don't even care. I'm not betting on this game. We definitely do not promote gambling. But what I am saying is that 11 points is quite a spread, especially since we've played there. So we the last time we beat them at Greenville was in 2007. And keep in mind that even though that was 15 years ago, we've only played them twice at ECU since then, but lost both times. So, but it's just interesting that the lines actually moved in that favor. Because honestly, to me, when that line first came out, I was like, for how good ECU is playing ACC, for how crazy an environment that's going to be, first game of the year, shaking off some rust kind of deal. I think it's honestly going to be a close game, but if we win by double digits, I will be absolutely tickle pink for sure.
Yeah, want the first game of the season. Hopefully at least our defense defense is usually more ready at the beginning of the season than an offense, and our defense is going to be very good this year. So
yeah, true.
That's what I'm banking on that.
Yeah,
our defense will win us that game. Would win us most games this season, honestly. But yeah, especially this first game.
True, absolutely. Greg, what were you saying? Go ahead.
I was just gonna make a joke. The first thing that comes to mind is the Admiral Akbar trap gif, right? And
it's a trap.
It's a trap. But no, I think Michael's right. If I had to say which is going to be better to begin the season, it's definitely going to be the defense, and the offense will find its way, especially with the running back situation and figuring out the O-line. So I'm okay with, just having a great defensive performance, limiting them and their opportunities, and just If it's 7, if it's 10, if it's 20, I don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As long as you score at least one more point than them, I'm good.
At least one more.
That's a good strategy. That's a good strategy.
Well, because it was funny. I was trying to do a little bit of research, and one of the interesting things which I found is David. Oh man, what was it? David Thompson, but not the David Thompson, but David Thompson with the Fayetteville Observer. He did an article back on June 30th, ranking the games for the season in terms of easiest to hardest. And I'd love to hear, Macon, where would you say ECU is? Like,
oh, I gotta think of the schedule now. Clemson's got to be number one.
Which one?
Clemson's got to be number one.
Yeah.
Louisville's probably up there.
On the road.
Gosh, toughest games. I think Wake Forest probably up there this year. I'm going to say ECU was 5th.
Yep.
4th or 5th.
I was going to say 6th.
Mm-hmm. So let me give it to you in terms of easiest to hardest. So we'll do easiest to hardest. So he has the easiest game is Charleston Southern, and then second is you.
We took their quarterback too, so
we did. That's true, and we're putting him as our backup. So, and then UConn second, Syracuse third at Syracuse, Boston College at home fourth, at Louisville fifth.
Can I pause on that real quick? Can I pause on that?
Yeah,
actually, that's kind of surprising. But the Boston College one, did they lose a lot of their defense? Is that the thinking there, or because Boston College was not bad last year? I'm just curious why they're so low.
Yeah, I mean, they lost some pieces, but I mean, I definitely think Boston College should be.
But compared to the list, compared to the list, I think it's so far so good.
True.
I don't think Boston College is going to be. Yeah, I don't think Boston College is going to be better than Louisville or Florida State.
Would you think Boston College was worse than Virginia Tech?
So here's why. He justifies it, because Boston College lost all 5 of their offensive linemen, all 5. So they are starting completely from scratch in terms of their offensive line.
They're banking on them going from middle tier team to, for us, like one of the worst teams we play, because they're because
4th worst. So, but
I would say you're onto something, Macon, because by the time we play Boston College, I think some of that stuff will get figured out. We played Virginia Tech earlier in the season, so I'm with you. I would probably flip those two.
I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just I'm surprised. That's all.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So just to kind of continue here. So we got Charleston Southern is the easiest, UConn, Syracuse, Boston College, and then at Louisville, the 5th easiest, which is surprising. Which is surprising. Well, because one of the things that he doesn't even have in here, which I would put in, is that literally that I completely can envision us going into, because basically the last 2 games of the year are at Louisville and at UNC. The last 2 games of the season are away games, ACC games, and in tough environment / a rivalry game with a dynamic quarterback like Malik Cunningham. But because I can completely see going into those 2 games, possibly 10-0. So then you are really circling those games like, oh my gosh, like that's going to be a tough one. So, because I mean, you basically 7 of those 10 games are going to be home games. So it's very enticing there. And then Florida State at home, 6, Virginia Tech at home, 7, at ECU, 8 in terms of easiest. And then Texas Tech at UNC, Wake Forest, Clemson.
So I want to go with this. I thought it was interesting because I think, again, we have discussed, and we could probably worth discussing here briefly. Michael, could you explain, or Greg, could you explain why FPI is such a flawed way of evaluating schedules?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it weights too heavily recruiting rankings. I mean, there's got to be some way to measure talent, because you can, say just rank them off where they finished last year, but you lose NFL guys and seniors and stuff. So there has to be some way to include new guys that are going to be playing. And so I think the default is just to use recruiting rankings, and I just think there's too much weight on it.
Yeah, I think it skews way to the higher number And to me, it doesn't seem like it balances out, because if you look at it one way, like State has a high percentage of winning the games, but then if you see the opposite team down like random, then it shows them having the higher number, but it doesn't show up like compared against each other. So I don't really understand how one team can be 68% and then the other team be like 68%. Like that doesn't equal 100 to me. Like I barely passed math, but it doesn't make sense.
And also, too, before we continue this too, let's jump into Tuffy's Weekly Rewind. Here we go. I forgot to transition us over. My fault, guys. So,
what was that?
forgot to transition us over.
Your point is stupid, Greg. Goodbye.
Yeah. No.
One way to put a muzzle on.
No,
me.
Sorry. No, I apologize. Well, again, hey, I mean, we put all this stuff together, so we gotta use it, right?
Yeah, gotta use it.
Anyway, but yeah, I mean, because I remember last week, I think it was July 4th, actually. I saw this tweet from talking about playoff chances per the ESPN FPI.
Playoffs.
Yeah, playoffs. We're talking about playoffs.
And it's not appropriate time for that sound effect.
And just to kind of go over that, so literally they have Clemson as a 57.4% likelihood to make the playoffs. They have Miami as a 8.9%. They have Pitt as a 1.4%, UNC at 1.1%. State at 0.3% likelihood to make the playoffs. 0.3.
Here's my thing. The 0.3 I just have a problem with, because like the fact that we're even in the discussion of a playoff is I'm fine.
Yeah.
Well, I know.
Carolina is ahead of State. More likely.
But again, it just goes back to just the flaw, because again, it's really bringing in the high school recruiting, and because again, we didn't really need that much heading into this year. We just got the pieces that we wanted, not necessarily that we needed. We were very picky in terms of who we wanted. Correct. And but I mean, seriously though, because more than likely, whoever wins the ACC will make it to the playoffs. So basically, you're saying that Clemson is ungodly, way more likely to win the AC this year than we are. To me, that's where it kind of gets me in terms of, I mean, it should not be that much of a discrepancy between Clemson and us. But again, the State fan in me saying I'm okay being the underdog, but I kind of agree with you making as well. Which is like, hey, I mean, it's cool being a part of it anyway. But at the end of the day, folks, again, just like we've talked about for a while now, at some point we got to cross this road, and I truly do think this year is the year that we have a very, very high potential to cross that road. So again, it's all good. We'll take it.
But I'll go back. So you said the matchups that were toughest. You had your original point was that ECU was the 8th toughest we had, right in the middle, essentially. Or
sorry. So 8th easiest. So now in terms of hardest, we're gonna Clemson hardest, Wake Forest 2nd, UNC 3rd, Texas Tech 4th, ECU 5th.
Okay, so ECU was 5. Okay.
Yep.
I would argue that ECU is going to be better than Texas Tech.
Yeah, I would too.
So we are joined by Kenzie.
What's up? Can you hear me?
Yep, we got you. You got us?
Good. What's up, guys?
What's up? We're glad to finally have you on the show.
Right? Charlotte.
I know. I was like, I'm not even going to wait till the end of this point to bring Kenzie in, because gosh forbid, it's been too long to bring her in. So we're going to go ahead and bring her in. Yeah, Kenzie. So I'll know kind of catch you up real quick. So we're kind of talking about the schedule this year, and so they have Clemson. So David Thompson from the Fayetteville Observer put out the toughest to easiest matchups. He had Clemson first, Wake Forest 2nd, UNC 3rd, Texas Tech 4th, and ECU 5th. And we were just making the point that honestly, I mean, first of all, I mean, I think that it's kind of interesting that Texas Tech is so high. But I mean, also too, because I think that David Thompson is kind of looking at the ECU game from a more of a local perspective, because obviously I think that us locals look at ECU as a much tougher game than maybe somebody from a national perspective, like somebody who's like in the Big Ten, like that doesn't really know much about State versus ECU. So that's kind of how I look at it as well. But what are your thoughts on it?
I mean, I think like you just said, ECU is State fans. We all know that ECU is a backbreaker for us sometimes. So I feel like that can do more damage for us than losing like against Wake Forest or Clemson. So I'd put ECU like third.
Wow. Okay. So
Third.
yeah, I mean, so but again though, it just I mean, because UNC is going to be tough. I mean, for sure. I mean, obviously that's going to be a big game.
Totally.
Looking to get back at us for sure.
Mhm.
But also too, because again, that I mean, gosh, forbid, like think about the possibilities of that being the last game of the year. Like, what if
A lot of
Wake
injuries
Forest
could have happened by then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but also too, there could be a lot on the line. Like that could be a potential matchup that decides who goes to the ACC championship.
Mhm.
College football playoff. Like that could be a huge game. I might not be able to sleep that for a couple nights before that game.
I'm kind of thinking like, how would you guys change that ranking up? That's what I'm curious for those who are watching what you would say too, because I definitely think Clemson will be the toughest.
Yeah.
I think Wake Forest will be tough. I don't think because of environment, but I think it'll be they're one of the better teams in the country this year. But I wouldn't necessarily. I don't think I would put Carolina third.
I wouldn't.
I'm trying to think who I would put there. I actually think Florida State's going to be a sneaky tough game.
Mm-hmm.
I think Jordan Travis will be very good for Florida State again. And they had injuries last year. So that's part of it for me. I honestly, I would probably have UNC fourth or fifth, maybe. That's what I think. Because I think the question with UNC is the quarterback situation. Like, is Jacoby Criswell going to be the guy, or I can't remember who the other guy
Drake
was.
May.
Yeah, the guy,
Drake May.
So, but that's what I think. I think Louisville's way too low. I think Virginia Tech's probably somewhere in the middle this season. But what do you guys think?
Well, but first of all, I want to kind of add a side note saying that from a reliable UNC source, Drake May is already far beyond where Leary is right now. So it should be Drake May, not even close. So just keep that in mind. A very reliable UNC fan told me that.
Oh, he also threw
is-
for 35 touchdowns and 5 interceptions.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
It's Drake
Sorry, go ahead,
May's conference, and everyone else is just battling for fourth, right? So
exactly. Sorry, Greg. Go ahead.
No, so I think where David Thompson's given Texas Tech credit is they're a Power 5 team. So, but I would reverse it just because ECU is on the road, Texas Tech is at home. I would argue that I would drop Tech to like 8th or 9th on the list.
Yeah, I agree.
And then I would probably put Florida State 6 or 7. I would probably bring Louisville close to Florida State, so probably 5. I would put Carolina at 4. I would put Texas Tech at like 7.
I put them middle. But I mean, also too, like Virginia Tech, I think should definitely be lower because again, I mean, I think that with it being a Thursday night game, that the that the home field advantage goes up even more because I mean, that it's going to be a crazy environment with the first year head coach.
Lights we have in the stadium.
Yeah, the new red lights. Oh shoot!
I would be curious. Maybe we should go back and do this. I would venture to say we haven't lost a Thursday night game in probably 6 or 7 opportunities. Like Thursday historically is one of those because remember last year we played South Florida on a Thursday. We've beaten Louisville on Thursday. I mean, there's probably a ton out there, but I would say Thursday nights are probably our best night of football in recent memory.
I feel like the last one would have been in 2013. We played Clemson on Thursday night, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong.
That's 10 years.
So 10 years ago, I could be wrong, but
Yeah.
But that'd be a good little test for sure. But again, I mean, the in-state environment's not going to be easy. So, so before, because again, we got more stuff to jump into here. So, obviously, if for those who tuned in for the show last week, we were covering 9 days instead of 7 days, and those 9 days were crazy. One of the things that we didn't even think about until the show actually started was the changing of the format for the ACC schedule, where it's not going to be divisions anymore. It's going to be one conference, and basically each team is going to have 3 common opponents. And so Michael, Greg, and I kind of talked about it. So now I wanted to kind of get Macon and Kenzie's thoughts on it. So I have here basically the graphic here, which has each team, the 3 opponents that they're going to face every single year, and then the other 10 teams in the league will basically do a 2-time cycle, meaning that we do a home and then away every 4 years. So for any of the teams that are not a primary opponent, every 4 years you do a home and away with them. And then the top 2 teams in terms of winning percentage face each other in ACC championship. So our 3 common opponents are Clemson, Duke, and Carolina. So Kenzie, I'll kind of give you the floor first, and then I'll let you kind of build off of what she says.
I like it, honestly, because everybody knows the Atlantic is a harder division than the Coastal, a lot of people would say. So I'm glad that it's like the top 2 teams, like percentages to go to the ACC tournament or championship.
Yeah.
I'm glad we get to play Duke every year now, because usually
Really?
we only play Duke like once every 5 years. And
More than that.
yeah.
It's a long
So
time.
yeah, I like it. I wish we played Wake.
Yeah, I think that's the consensus, is that it should have been Clemson, Wake, and UNC, and not Duke. So Macon, what are your thoughts?
So I wish we weren't playing Duke. I mean, let me rephrase that. I thought it was going to be or should be UNC, Wake Forest, and Clemson. That's what I thought they were going to do and should have done. That makes the most sense.
Yes.
Them picking Duke over Wake Forest was very interesting, because obviously the rivalry. This will be the first time after next season. Next season will be the first time we have not played Wake Forest in 112 years. Yeah, 20, whatever it is. So that's kind of sad, but it's also the same time it's like, well, do I really care to go play Wake Forest every year? They've kind of become more of a thorn in my side.
Right.
Every now and then. But the other thing to consider is Duke is a lot easier to win right now. So it's and maybe until something crazy happens, they'll probably generally always be that. So that's a nice win. The ACC championship does not care about the ranking of the opponents you play. They care about you beating teams in your conference. So that is a nice – that helps Cincy State out. I think the fact that I know I said Carolina – I wanted Carolina, Wake Forest, Clemson. But having Clemson every year, it hurts State a little bit too, because you have to play them every year. And they're like a top 10 team every year except last year. So a lot of these schools, who's got the easiest looking one out of all of these?
Pitt.
I don't know. Yeah.
Boston
College, Syracuse.
I was thinking either Pitt or Wake Forest. Wake
Forest has
Duke, GT, and VT is pretty
easy.
True.
So my thing is, though, like, think about your Pitt, who's actually – and Wake Forest right now, who's actually playing pretty well. Playing Duke, Virginia Tech – Duke and Georgia Tech in particular right now, that's 2 – I won't say guaranteed wins. But that's a very strong likelihood you're going to win those 2 games. Probably Virginia Tech. We don't know what Brent Pry is going to do with Virginia Tech. But, that sets them up better for success compared to us, who has to play Clemson every single year. Like, who else is it? Georgia Tech has played Clemson every year. Florida State's played them every year. Beyond that, I mean, the other schools kind of got a nice deal.
Who would you argue got the toughest draw?
Oh, let me look here. Well, it's whoever's got Clemson. I would say
Georgia Tech's not easy.
Georgia Tech. Yeah, I would say Georgia Tech. Yeah, Georgia Tech.
Yeah, I thought Florida State was pretty tough too, with Miami on the
they get Miami.
Yeah, but they do get the.
To be honest with you, Duke's is pretty hard. But
for them,
yes, but I think you're right. I think Georgia Tech probably got the toughest.
So just for those who are listening, so Georgia Tech faces their primary opponents are Clemson, Louisville, Wake Forest, and then Duke has UNC, State, and Wake Forest. So first of all, I mean, if I'm Duke, I'm seeing the battle, the Mac Brown state championship trophy right there. Carolina State and Wake Forest every year. So
what I'm also interested in is like why were some of these schools picked for, like, why was Louisville picked for Georgia Tech? That doesn't make any sense to me.
I actually listened to the ACC radio network when they first announced this, and they basically said that it was kind of a close geographic opponent. So that was kind of why they went for Louisville.
Oh, yeah, that makes a ton. I mean,
I'm just telling you what they said.
Boston College got paired with Miami, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
I'm joking. It's just like I don't
old
know.
Big East, I guess.
I guess it's just interesting to me. So
Yeah, no, absolutely. But kind of looking at next year's schedule, because I wanted to kind of show that as well. So looking at it, so getting Clemson, Louisville, Miami, and Carolina at home, and then at Duke, at Virginia Tech, at Wake Forest. I know we've kind of talked about this before, and I think it's been said plenty of times, but that could potentially be one of the hardest schedules that I could think of in terms of recent memory. I mean, and because we're not even thinking about out of conference, because out of conference wise, don't we play Cincinnati next year too?
We play Cincinnati and
we play App.
No.
Oh,
I think don't we have Notre Dame next year? Or is that
Notre
24?
Dame? Yeah,
Notre Dame. Golly,
Yeah.
that's a ungodly schedule.
with a new quarterback and defense is turned over a lot, and it'll be a rebuilding year for sure. So
we'll see. But
Is-
yes.
we do
Well,
get
it's like, for instance, like we can transition there, but I think like a linebacker, you're probably going to be fine. You're going to have Devin Betty, you're going to have Jalen Scott, and I don't know, Caden Fordham, maybe something like that, or quarterback. I think if Leary has a season he has, that a transfer quarterback is going to want to come play here.
Yes.
Yeah.
I will say you get to see a new quarterback at Louisville, Virginia, and Wake Forest next year. So that is the saving grace.
Yeah,
if
it
there
is
is
going to
one.
be. It is going to be a quarterback heavy NFL draft next year. Heavy draft next year. Woo.
Yeah. So
Big names.
So even though we're replacing a quarterback, so are a third of our schedule or a fourth of our schedule.
I will say this: the teams we got at home are the right teams to play at home.
They're exciting.
It's like Clemson, Miami is going to have no Tyler Van Dyke, but they're bringing in some really strong talent right now.
Yeah,
and maybe
$9 million quarterback.
Yeah, maybe Criswell and Carolina they don't have Josh Downs anymore that next season, but they'll have some other guys. You get the tougher opponents at home. Is essentially what I'm looking at here. Like, Brennan Armstrong,
Notre Dame and Cincy are at home too.
Right.
The Carter's going to be rocking next year.
So you won't have Sam Hartman at Wake Forest. Duke's going to be Duke.
Brown will be gone.
I don't know what they'll be. So you get the easier opponents on the road. Mm-hmm. If you're going to do well, if it's going to be a tough schedule, that's the kind of schedule you want.
But I will say, go ahead.
I was going to say, it could be one of those weird years where we have a better road record than home record.
It could be. Well, and especially too, because I mean, obviously Wake Forest, historically is never easy for us. Absolutely never easy for us. Mm-hmm. And then Virginia Tech, there's nothing easy about playing in that environment for any college football team. So, but I'll tell you though, my wife saw that we were playing in Charlottesville, Virginia, and said, "Awesome, let's go. Good to go and enjoy a couple wineries and then go watch some college football."
I'll be there, hour and a half away. That's my new Maryland.
We also play at UConn, so that's another reason that our road record could be better.
That is true. We do.
That's interesting.
I still wish a year or two ago we could have played LSU. That was a series. I don't know if everybody remembers that.
Yeah.
What? They took Syracuse instead.
Yes. Funny.
Wonder why.
But yeah. So with that being said, though, we will jump on over here to our Tuffy's tweet of the week. So here we go. All right. So first up, let me cycle through it. Sorry about that. I had all scheduled just in case. So anyway, first one from ACC Barstool, and actually let's talk about this real quick because Justin brings it up here in the chat. UConn, a future ACC team. Quick, yay or nay on that, y'all?
No.
Nay. Yeah. No.
Well, you saw that article that I sent you earlier, right? That's what Jim Moore is recruiting for, is to get them into the ACC with us. So
again, we need somebody to help us. We need somebody to help us with football. The only thing it would do is help us in basketball and women's basketball, but we don't need that. We're just fine in those areas. We're just fine. So, but anyway, so Tuffy's tweet of the week. First one, top ACC Barstool released their top 5 game day atmospheres in the ACC. They have Virginia Tech number 1, Clemson number 2, State number 3, Florida State number 4, and Louisville number 5. So, here, Greg, since you shook your head first, what's one team that you think should be on this list, and what's one team that you don't think should be on this list?
So don't think. I would say, see, here's the problem. I don't know who I would replace them with, because I went to Louisville a few years ago and it was a dud. But again, they were having a down season. So what I would say though is, even when State has a down season, we show up and we still rock out Carter Finley.
Yes.
So I don't know who you replace. I mean, I don't know who you replace at 5, but I'm not impressed with number 5. I don't know. Anybody got anything that they've been to? Because I mean, I've been to a lot of the venues. Pitt was a doozer. Miami was not great.
Well, I was going to reference remember our interview with oh my gosh, the guy, the equipment manager. I'm blanking on the name.
Country.
Big Country. Yeah.
Country.
Remember what he said his favorite was?
No. Tell me.
Boston College. Remember that?
I've been to Boston College. It was weak sauce.
It's weak sauce.
Why did he like it?
I thought it was interesting he said that.
Yeah. Well, I think he might have been saying that more of a favor in terms of the setup, maybe. But I mean, yeah, environment wise, it's 30 years.
They run out of the tunnel was on like the 30-yard line. It's so weird.
Yeah.
Like, it was so weird.
Strange.
Yeah. So I think Virginia Tech and Clemson are 1 or 2. I don't think that's up for debate. Now, I actually think Clemson should be 1, Virginia Tech should be 2. I think here's why. I've been to Clemson and I've been to Virginia Tech, and Virginia Tech's intro is incredible,
bar none.
Best in the country.
Well, my thing is, it's good and they fill it up, but I'm telling you, when I went to that Clemson game, when we laid a goose egg a few years ago, that was loud. That was loud. And I was like I think Carter Finley's loud, and when that place wants to get loud, it's crazy. Virginia Tech's similar. I do think the stock on the intro is what's carrying Virginia Tech's to number 1.
Because Clemson being the top the best 25 seconds of college football, especially now that they got rid of the balloons. No, it's not even close.
Well, no,
I will
got rid
say
of the balloons.
and the environment, we got to protect it.
Then not even 2.
But I think the Howard's Rock running down the hill. I mean, that's pretty awesome. And then they let the fans on the field after the game, because to me that's still considered part of the game day atmosphere.
As a equipment manager who had to pack up all the stuff and carry off field while they're getting on the field, that will always never be a favorite.
No, that's why I'm sure that's a logistical nightmare. But we're not talking about you right now.
Right? We're talking about your early fan.
Yeah, but personally, I do think it's like a 1A, 1B thing with Clemson, Virginia Tech. Very good. They're kind of out in the middle of nowhere. People, all they care about in those schools are football. It's always packed. I just think my experience, Clemson was more impressive. Now, I have heard people say Florida State should be 2, and maybe that's when they're good. But
they're good.
Yeah, but that's the point. Like, Virginia Tech's always
right. I agree.
Clemson,
I mean,
I imagine Clemson's always loud. So
yes.
Why I say Florida State no is because I remember a few years ago that guy reading a book in the stands when they were getting trounced by Clemson. So I mean, you're null and void. You're out.
So here's my thought for if you're going to kick Louisville off. Here's my only one that I can really think of, but that's not on this list. And I don't know because I've not been there, but it seems like it can get kind of rowdy at times, is Georgia Tech. Now, they've been bad lately, but you've seen clips of their stadium when it's like exciting or a night game, and it's like that play where they blocked the punt or the kick for Florida State and ran back. I realized that was the exception, and that was the peak of it. But who's better?
Well, so here, guys. So
it's almost by default
because and I'm basically going to make that point, saying I think that's honestly, in terms of great environments, these are really the only 5. Because so again, kind of going through it. Duke, no. UNC, they can't even fill their stadium. No. Do you consider Notre Dame? I'm not really. I guess they're not really in this.
No,
they're not in this conversation.
I think Sun does. No.
Miami, No. Wake Forest, no.
It's too small.
It's too small. I think it could be. They like football there, but
their marching band plays out of
small.
speakers. Okay, so no,
Yeah.
And half of their stadium is full of other fans.
that's
Yeah.
most of the time. Yeah. Virginia, no. Virginia Tech and Florida State are on there for sure. Syracuse, no.
Boston College, no.
Boston College, no. Louisville, sure. Clemson, yes. Pitt, no. They're in the NFL
I really
stadium.
think it's more of a discussion of Virginia Tech and through, that top four is like, okay, that's your top four, and then Louisville's like, it's like I think there's a grouping of like the top two, and then like they're in one tier maybe, and then Force are in their own tier, and then Louisville's in its own tier, and then maybe. But I mean, like you're right. I think it's a cross-elimination where it's like, well, maybe number 6 is Georgia Tech. I mean, I don't know.
But Georgia Tech's kind of small too, though, right? Like I only think it's maybe
small.
like 35, 40,000. If that.
It is small, but I don't know the atmosphere is a ton. Like I just maybe someone can educate us on that. But I would say it can't be worse than Duke or whatever. So.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, and also too because Louisville did just add their new piece, their stadium, basically finishing the
that was
end
a couple
zone.
years ago.
So that, and I haven't been back there since they did that. So I mean, maybe that'll help. I don't know. We'll find out this year, I'm sure.
It didn't. I was there the first year they put it in. It was empty. I mean, but it was a horrible team. That was when Petrino quit on them. So nobody was going to the games.
Yeah. But
so that was my point. Is like, why do you put them at 5? Because like when they stink, they don't show up. So I think, but by default, they're the best of the next.
Exactly. Right. That's basically, I think the point I was that I think we're making.
They are historically a football school, so
yeah, for sure. All right, so now moving on to the next one, we have got NC State 2023 commit Zoe Brooks, who won as a part of a tandem or a team of two, the WNBA Skills Challenge, along with teammate Sabrina. I'm gonna try to say the last name. Ienskew. Loneskew.
Can I buy a vowel, please?
So, absolutely. Yeah. And again, just wanted to kind of give a little bit of a shout out to Zoe. Obviously, I think that she's definitely going to be a huge piece coming into next year that can easily fill some gaps. But go ahead.
I just did the pronunciation thing on Google. It's Ionescu.
I was wondering what that voice was.
Ionescu. I typed the name. I said pronunciation. I clicked the thing. I was like
Ionescu. Okay, that's a cool name.
Is Zoe? I think she's a point guard, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, I mean, obviously, it's cool to see some NC State players start to get some more limelight. And because in terms of recruits, who was the last big name recruit that got this much hype? Does anybody think of a name?
Kanane was pretty hyped.
I mean, Kanane was
Kanane was hyped coming in. Yeah. Okay. I was thinking
I will say if you're going to count like the transfers who have come in.
Well, that's the thing. Is that I'm just talking just straight off high school.
Aliso is probably it.
Yeah, probably.
I remember. I mean, Sophie Hart got a lot, but not not. I wouldn't say not as high as Kanane.
And I wouldn't even say Zoe Brooks has gotten hype. I think she's just being like recognized that she's really freaking good at basketball, and like that. I think it's like everybody's recognizing her for that. It's not like, oh my gosh, she's like the greatest thing we've ever seen. It's just like, no, she's like really, really good.
Yeah. All right. I'll kind of try and roll along with your fine line between what's hype and what's not hype making. You're the man, bro. So all right. No, I hear you, man. No, it's all good. All right. So now moving on to Mr. Trey Turner, getting announced as an all-star starter. So again, obviously Trey, I mean, first of all, I mean, it's crazy to think about that. I mean, this guy that when he came to state was, a decent recruit. Obviously, him, Brad Austin, and Carlos Rodon kind of came as, a team of like, we're going to put State on the map, and they definitely did. But I mean, to now say he's, I mean, right now statistically one of the top 2 or 3, shortstops in all of baseball right now, and to say, I mean, he's a starter. I mean, it's ridiculous. Seeing how far this guy has come in his career. And you can honestly make the argument that it really took a more exponential jump when he got to the MLB, really than necessarily did in college. That's kind of where my head's at with it.
I would say even from going from the Nationals to the Dodgers, he's even like improved.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Hey,
wish
we're not talking about this. Yeah, we're not talking about this.
Yeah.
There's actually here's a weird
They
thing
took
that
Freddie from me. I'm real upset about it still.
Yeah.
So speaking of that, right? So Mackenzie, it sounds like you're a Braves fan, then, right?
I am. They're playing right now against the Mets. Does anybody know the score in the chat?
No one cares. It's July. Like it doesn't even matter.
True.
No. So the one thing I've seen on Twitter is like there's a lot of hate from NC State fans that Trey got in over Dansby Swanson. Like so that's kind of a weird take. So if you're a Braves fan and an NC State fan,
I am.
Where do you go? Like which one are you mad about?
Honestly,
Rodon not making it.
I mean,
that was a shame.
I love Dansby, but Dansby's one of those players that when he's on, or he's off. There's no in between. Trey Turner, I feel like, is just one of those players that, like, even if he's not having his best game, he's having a really freaking good one. So it's like I'm not upset about it, but of course I want more Braves people in it. But
Sure. And Justin actually even points out too that actually only 2 schools actually recruited him out of in terms of Trey Turner out of high school, and Just Cook also says that Trey is better. Oh, and then unfortunately Mets are up 2-0. Ken, sorry.
We've woken up Justin.
Tim Peeler had this factoid. He said that Trey Turner is the first former state baseball player selected as a starter in the All-Star game since the Cardinals shortstop Jimmy Brown started and led off the National League in the 10th annual contest at the in 1942.
Yeah, the great Jimmy Brown. Who can't forget him?
Yeah. So it's been 80 years. 80 years.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Tim Peeler always has great stats.
Really late. And there was somebody that we interviewed, one of the former athletes, who mentioned that they grew up and were friends with Trey Turner growing up, and that he was kind of like this scrawny baseball player that nobody really saw a potential in, or something like that. I can't remember who it was.
Yeah.
Somebody from Florida.
I feel like there must.
You remember that, Lane?
I think it must have been Chan Shepard, honestly.
Maybe it was somebody that was given. I think it was a girl. Honestly, I can't remember who it was, but she was saying that they were friends with Trey, and it was like he just was like a scrawny baseball player, and nobody saw a lot of potential in him. And somebody passed along a tip to it was the softball player.
Oh yes. I think her name. Go ahead.
Because they were friends with Trey Turner when he was young. So can't remember the name off the top of my head, but that was like.
I'll find it.
Make is getting there.
Oh yeah,
every second closer to the answer.
Yeah, I'm trying.
Caitlin Dent. Caitlin Dent.
Correct. See,
Hey, that's correct. That's it.
Correct.
That's right.
Yeah, but we got to talk about the travesty. Yes, Carlos Rodon's having a career year, building off of. I mean, I think that a lot of people saw what Carlos did last year and was like, well, he's going to kind of fall off a little bit, but he's done that and then some this year. He has been spectacular this year. So I mean,
been healthy a couple of years. I mean, we all knew that he had this potential. He just couldn't stay healthy for his first few years with the White Sox. Yeah. So
true.
And sometimes that's kind of takes, and then you're out of the league.
When you watch him play, I don't watch a lot of Major League Baseball. Rodon. When you watch Rodon play, like I don't watch a lot of Major League Baseball. I will in October, but it's when he plays, he pitches, he is fired up, and it gets me like even the little clips. I'm like, woo, that was sick. Like when he struck that, I can't remember who the guy was.
Oh God, here we go.
Some guy recently, like I saw.
Did you guys interview him?
Yeah.
He plays for a team somewhere.
I want to say a North American team.
The last 100 years they played each other. It was when you watch Rodon play, he's very animated and emotional.
Yeah, he gets fired up.
Me fired up for it. It's like I love that, and that's what when you're a sports fan, particularly that team. It's like that's just fun,
especially in baseball. You try to get anything that'll like fire you up in baseball. So
I mean, you need something to draw your attention to the game.
Right.
I mean, all these stupid unwritten rules and all these old heads just like, oh, you can't do that. You can't steal when you have a 6-run lead.
Big Papi for the Red Sox did not show any emotion when he played, from my opinion. Like he hit a home run. Oh, yep, there's my 500th home run. Let me just go run the bases. Yeah. It's like, imagine him if he was like, whoa, yeah. That'd be more fun.
Yeah.
Well, he let out all his emotion on that telephone when he got thrown out.
He beat the crap out of that phone.
Yeah.
AT&T is still not happy.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, so now moving on to the next tweet, we are going to be giving some love, and because this is actually a question too, which I actually wanted to kind of ask as well. So PFF College came out with the rankings, and Peyton Wilson and Drake Thomas were put as having the lowest passer rating allowed in coverage by an AC linebacker since 2019. So we have the top two linebackers in that category in terms of passer rating allowed in coverage since 2019 is Peyton Wilson and Drake Thomas. So one of the things I wanted to kind of ask about, I mean, obviously, because we could sit here and talk about how great Peyton Wilson is and how great Drake Thomas is that, do you think that people forget about Isaiah Moore at all? Because I mean, do you really think that in terms of between Isaiah, Drake, and Peyton, that Isaiah's third? I'm kind of curious. And Kenzie, I see you kind of open your mouth first. Go ahead.
Obviously Peyton Wilson's a really good player, but he's just he hasn't played a full season yet. So it's like when we watch Isaiah, we've watched Isaiah play more and watched Isaiah do more basically than Peyton has. So I feel like they're all a tie for the best linebackers. I mean, Drake Thomas is obviously in there because he's one of those people we were just talking about. He's just amazing and fun to watch. But I feel like Isaiah should definitely get more recognition than he does. Mm-hmm. But when you're behind those two, I mean, it's kind of hard to.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. But yeah, because I mean, to me, I feel like Isaiah, like Drake Thomas and Peyton Wilson are guys that just jump off the screen at you. Like, and when you watch them play, like the energy they play with, they're just animals. And Isaiah Moore, I feel like, is the guy that you always know will get the job done. Like he is just reliable. He is consistent. You know exactly what you're getting from him. He is a leader. He is a guy that knows everything inside and out. Like, he is a guy that if you need somebody to get the job done, he will get it done. He may not make it in such a, cool or dramatic play like Peyton and Drake will, but that's kind of where my head is in terms of looking at Isaiah.
No, I think that's pretty spot on. I mean, and I think that's the reason why he plays middle linebacker and the other two are, on the outside. Yeah.
Correct.
I will say this, me being the only parent in the room, it's like asking you which one's your favorite, right?
Oh, yeah.
you don't take sides. So I'll take all three any day. But I will say Drake was kind of the forgotten one of the three because he didn't get all the press. But I think if you can say anything, that the injuries have actually helped Drake in his status. Because he stepped up once a little bit. He shifted, and then he had to shift again once Isaiah got hurt. And I think because of all that, his stock has just risen a thousandfold.
Yeah. True, I agree. Make anything to add on that?
I think Peyton Wilson's got the biggest NFL potential. I don't think Peyton even scratched the ceiling of what he could be. So, and he's, he had the 108 tackles. He had 19 tackles against Duke and whatever. I mean, he has so much potential. I'm kind of thinking that people were forgetting more about Peyton Wilson. That was my concern because
I agree too.
We saw the preseason ranking somebody had for Drake Thomas was the third best linebacker in the country, and last year we were thinking he was the third best linebacker on the team.
So, right, that's what I'm saying.
I mean, I think Peyton is Isaiah's the leader. I think Drake's a dog. That's what I think. I think Peyton is the freak. That's what I think. The leader.
Peyton is like the Tanner Engel of the linebackers.
So
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Well, and that's why, like, to me, like, it's exciting to think about, like, and it's almost like I'd be so scared if I'm the opposing quarterback. And I look right in front of me, I see Mr. Reliable Isaiah Moore, and then I see Drake Drimus over here, and I see Peyton Wilson over here. Whew, that is
because
scary.
Peyton is weak side, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
Isaiah
Drake is
is middle linebacker,
Mike.
strong side.
Yeah.
Drake is strong side.
Speaking of that, Leighton, if I'm a quarterback, I'm like, what the, you know what I mean? Like, as soon as you see like all three of them, your eyes just probably just.
Well, that's what I
bug out
mean.
on
Yeah,
you.
again, it's like you're in a lose-lose situation basically.
So
and we haven't even talked about Tanner Ingle coming up down the middle from the safety spot.
That's what I'm saying. That's who I'd be looking at. That man is crazy.
Yeah, he's almost like a fourth linebacker.
Here's what I'll be curious about though is okay. So that says that Drake Thomas and Peyton Wilson are two of the best receiving linebackers, if you will, defensive receiving, particularly linebackers that the ACC has seen in last 3 years, and they're playing on the same team at the same time. Where does Isaiah rank? Is he that big of a drop off? Obviously, we don't have the numbers in front of us. I would be curious to see what that looks like.
Yeah.
If I'm a team, an offense a coordinator, I'm trying to not necessarily maybe throw against those guys, but maybe I would be targeting. If I'm going to throw in the middle of the field, I'm targeting where the middle linebacker is, which is a dangerous spot for a receiver in the middle of the field. But
sure.
That's what I'm thinking as an offense coordinator. That's what when I saw it, I said, okay, I'm trying to break all these fastest out, but that means to me, okay, the sides are the strongest pass defense they've got in the linebacker position. If I can throw up the middle, that's my best chance to pass. So you may see more of that this season, maybe. I don't know. It's whatever quarterback's comfortable with, but just an interesting.
We'll see.
I mean, it's not inconceivable to think that we get all three first team linebackers. I mean, it could happen. I know Clemson. I know Clemson.
Yeah, that dude's freak too.
I know, but I'm just saying.
You're right.
We're biased.
If I'm Isaiah Moore, then I'm trying to show I'm the dog on this team.
Yeah,
sure.
So you want me to tell if we're checking like, hey, he's maybe not the one who makes like the vicious tackle, whatever. Well, I'm going to show you that I can do that this year. That's what I would be.
And the pictures that they've posted of him, he has gotten huge.
Yeah.
Like absolutely huge. So
I'm excited. Like, especially on that night video because he was the one that was in that.
Yeah. People were commenting. There was one comment that said he's coming to get bodies. Like
you know, makes you think of physically right now of Jermaine Pratt. That's what makes you think of.
Oh,
yeah,
I agree. Too. So I think Isaiah is a very solid player. Obviously, he's gonna be like, okay, look, I'm the leader. I just want to get the wins. But
all right, guys. So with that being said, we got to jump on over here to Tuffy's mailbag. Here we go. All right, so this one comes in. So it's kind of not necessarily a direct question, but basically, so NCSU fans tweet out asking for favorite memory in Carter Finley, and then Daniel Hicks commented on that tweet saying, "At Tuffy Talk Now, what is yours?" So I figured instead of just commenting on the tweet that we would kind of discuss it here. And since Macon and I basically talked about our favorite NC State game, which I think both of our favorite games, again, we did that episode back in early January of 2021, so it's been a little bit. So I don't necessarily remember 100% what yours was, Macon, but we'll kind of do it from who came on the team the soonest, and we'll kind of work our way back. So, Kenzie, I'll let you answer that question first.
Does it have to be while I was here?
No.
Ooh.
Well,
but you had to be in the stadium.
I would say,
yeah. I just meant like that had to be like
Finley.
A student or okay.
Yeah, no.
As a student, definitely the Clemson/Carolina game. I can't pick. I cannot pick between those two. Yeah. Outside of that, definitely the Louisville game in 2017.
Okay.
Because that was the loudest I've heard Carter Finley in a while.
Yep. Greg?
Yeah, so I'm gonna go. I've had so many memories.
Yeah.
So the leg is too easy, so I'm not gonna take that.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go Clemson. And the reason I'm going to go Clemson is my dad was at that game with me. And he and I didn't go to college. We didn't even go, we didn't go to state or go to college. So for he and I, that was our college moment. We got to share it together. So we got to jump on the field after that Clemson win. So for me, it's Clemson.
Of this past year, you mean?
Yeah, correct.
Yes,
yeah.
correct. Yeah. Awesome. Michael?
Yeah, I think for me, favorite because we won is that Louisville Thursday night game.
Sure.
In 2017.
Yeah.
But two others that stick out was against Florida State when they had Jameis Winston. We were up early in that game, and that was
a crazy game.
That was a crazy game. And then
that Jacoby, was that the game Jacoby went off in the first quarter?
Yes.
Yeah, he had that crazy scramble.
Yeah, that great.
Yeah.
A la Russell Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And then the other one was, I forget what year it was. It was a little bit longer, where Brian Underwood returned the punt against Clemson, but they ruled him out of bounds. I forget what year that was, but that
2013.
was
2013. Lost,
yeah. Those two stick out also, but they were both losses.
Well, and it wasn't even a punt return; it was actually a jet sweep right down in the state sideline.
Oh,
and
really?
I'll remember because that was my first year, and I was a ball boy on the Clemson sideline. And that
not your moment, Leighton. It's not your moment.
I know. Sorry. I'm just giving.
No, it's great.
He was NC State's Red Lightning for like.
Well, and see, kind of a quick funny story about that too is so when Red Lightning was big in 2013, and then Florida State came back to us in 2014. So we had a equipment manager who was a redhead, and he was chubbier guy, pudgier guy. So so what we did is like, and literally that his name was actually Guy White, and so we literally Guy pretty much never did ball boy for the most part, and so but for that game alone, we said you're gonna be ball boy, you're gonna be on NC State sideline, you're gonna be standing right beside Big Red the entire game.
That's hilarious.
So that was pretty funny. Macon, go ahead.
So mine was the 2012 Florida State game with Mike Glennon and being the last second. That was mine. Reason why is because I was to my brother that game, and I was going to take him to the game beforehand, in which I think we played Citadel. I'm not mistaken. And I was like, okay, mind you, that was 2012, 10 years ago. So I was a student. Amos, my brother, was like, he would have been like, what, 14, 15, probably way younger than that. And 12, actually, I think. And I got him with a student pass. He looked nothing like a student.
They really don't even care. But
they don't care.
Shout out to them for this year doing that.
It was hilarious. But I think I'm going to take him to a game at Citadel. He's going to be able to see a win. He'll be happy. But it didn't work out. I'm like, well, I guess I could take him to Florida State. So then, I mean, the rest is history. And there's like a ton of pictures. If you look at that game, you can find me and my brother Amos with a really young elementary school kid in the sea of college students. I'll never forget that. And that was the last game my brother went to. Was that the Florida State game when the guy was shirtless?
Yeah.
Yes.
That was the last time I went to the game, and I have it. My favorite picture of me and Amos. And this season we got season tickets together, so it'll be the first time we'll have gone to a game since that game this year. So
that's awesome.
Pretty cool. Oh. Pretty cool. Love it.
I always love the backstories behind it. Right? It's not necessarily the game itself, but sometimes the backstory.
Exactly.
It was more meaningful that way.
Yeah. So there's a couple for me. I mean, obviously, again, Clemson and UNC, again, and we've talked about this before, how crazy it is that honestly, this past year, we had two games that probably for most people, probably for 80% of people, is going to be their favorite game that they've ever seen card friendly. I mean, and for me, Clemson was the first game I ever literally cried at an NC State game. Yeah. And then UNC, obviously, how epic it was. I mean, sending Sam Howell. Hey, come on, man. Sending Sam Howell the way it was. I mean, that was amazingness. But two other games that come up for me. The first one, which I'm not going to say, was 2010 Florida State, because that was one of the first. I was actually on the sidelines for that game and because basically that put us. It was a night game, and the winner of that game would be be ahead in the Atlantic Division for the AC championship. But the reason why I don't put it
worked out.
Yeah, well, exactly. But then that's the exact same reason I don't. First of all, actually, I actually wasn't even at the 2012 Florida State game. I thought we were going to get killed. But also too, because like at the end of the day, those games didn't really do much for us, even though that we did upset Florida State in 2012. Didn't really do much with it. 2010, we upset Florida State. Didn't really do much with it. But Notre Dame for me is still I would still have to say my favorite in 2016, because again, that was the Hurricane Matthews game.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that was
that game too, man. That was a great
that was my senior year. And being a football equipment manager, again, I've said these stories before. I definitely say that if you want to hear kind of the rest of my stories, first of all, maybe put in the comments. Maybe I could do a separate video again talking about it because, again, I do have so many stories about that game. But I mean, it was undescribable in terms of preparing for that game. Like, how do you prepare your team equipment wise for a game in a torrential downpour with inches of standing water on the football field? Like literally, like, and also too, I mean, being like our ball guys, like Coach Drinkwitz, our offensive coordinator, was really yelling at us saying, "Switch out the balls. That one's soaking wet."
It's
literally,
like,
I'm not even kidding.
matter.
What do you want me to
Not
do?
kidding. Like, yeah.
Right.
Get them out of the equipment room.
Well, because basically, like because it was basically during a timeout, and so they had the ball placed and it was sitting on the ground, and so he was like, "Well, sitting on the ground, go replace it." It's like, again, it's not going to do anything, but whatever. So yeah, I would definitely probably say Notre Dame, but I mean Clemson, UNC for me.
I forgot what's the name, but he's an honorable mention. Here's my. I forgot. I think one that gets way overlooked was the 2011 Clemson game.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that game? Because they were ranked like 9 or 11.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we beat the crap out of them.
Everybody was saying, "Oh, Clemson's just going to roll in and kick their butt," and it was like, no, State doesn't even have a shot, and we obliterated them.
Yeah.
Look at the George Bryant game. Holy cow, we destroyed them.
And also,
what about the game when we played Maryland?
That's a good one. Yeah, the comeback. The comeback.
That was probably one of my favorite games too.
What was that? 54 to 30, 54
I left the game early. It
was like 49-14.
But I had family visiting, so that was different. So
yeah. But the one thing though, which I still love to this day, which I'll still go back and watch that 2011 Clemson game for one thing and one thing only, and that's after Tony Creasy scores a touchdown and the announcer goes, if you saw this coming, send us a letter. And to me, that's still one of my favorite quotes of all time. I love that quote.
So the score was 37-13, and Clemson was ranked 7th
in the country. Yeah, it was ridiculous.
That was the last time we beat them before this past season.
Yeah, that's
crazy.
Crazy. Think about
a long time.
All right. So now one more question for Tuffy's mailbag. So John Lee asked, what is the best chicken wing restaurant to go to in Raleigh? So Greg, I know you travel here a lot, for games and stuff like that. So do you have a one that comes to mind or a couple that come to mind?
So yeah, not really a chicken wing restaurant per se, but I do like Dame's Chicken and Waffles, and I do get their chicken wings with the waffle. So
yeah,
they're not a true chicken wing place, but that's my go-to. I love some chicken and waffles. So
yeah. And Kens, since you were a student there, I'm curious your thoughts. Like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was a student, but you just graduated. So sorry, you just graduated.
Probably wings over Raleigh, just typical.
Yeah,
they're good.
I didn't really go to I would just go like closest one on campus usually.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Michael, do you have any others?
Nothing that really jumps out at me.
Kind of same.
I mean, Sammy's is not bad. I mean, all their food is
Sammy's is
decent.
Again, it's not really a chicken wing restaurant.
That's the
exactly. We don't really have a chicken wing restaurant.
I have a place I go to. It's not in Raleigh, but there's a place in Apex called Apex Wings that people say is a pretty
really good
place. So.
Yes. So yeah, if you're looking near Raleigh, yes, Apex Wings is great.
I feel like this is a big game boomer question.
Yeah,
really.
The best chicken wing restaurant. Which speaking of two, let's kind of do that. I know we are way over time, but this is gonna be a quick one. So Big Game Boomer came out with the best barbecue restaurant for each campus, and they put old time. He put old time, not old time. Barbecue. I
think that's fair.
I think it is.
I have a one to counter that though, and I have a good reason why objectively. Backyard barbecue pit in the Cary Durham area, like right there near my house, Layton. Like it's kind of right there where 55 meets 54. That was on the TV show Man vs. Food because it was such good barbecue. That is my only counter to that one. It's really freaking good barbecue.
Yeah. No. Greg?
So you're saying Smithfield's not good? I'm just kidding.
Can't do chains.
Yeah.
Um,
For a chain, they have pretty good barbecue.
Yeah, they're not
Yes.
horrible. Yeah, I'm a barbecue snob. I don't tend to eat barbecue out because I do it pretty well, but I do enjoy going to the pit. So
Yeah. Yep. Ken.
Pit, yeah.
Any-
It's good.
Probably the pit.
Okay. Yeah. No. To me, old time is just because for me, I love fried okra and old time like
Ooh,
their
fried
pulled
Good.
pork sandwich with their
Mhm.
homemade barbecue sauce and some side fried
Dang, I'm
okra
hungry.
is just yeah,
Mhm.
that would be up there. So all right. So with that being said, so unfortunately we do have to once get in the episode. But again, first of all, gotta give a huge shout out to Ken's for finally joining us on the Tuffy Talk live show. So here, a round of applause. Finally got her on. So thank you all so much again for tuning in. Really do appreciate it. Again every Monday night, 8 p.m. I know last week we did on Wednesday because it was July 4th, but pretty much any day unless we have a holiday or something crazy happens, we're going to be having it here Monday, 8 p.m. So make sure to join in here with us. And also, too, again, we actually really would love to have some more questions for Tuffy's mailbag. So if y'all don't mind as well, just keep an eye out. Again, usually either Sunday or Monday morning, we'll put out a tweet asking for questions. So keep an eye out for it and let us know your questions. Again, anything NC State or ACC related, we will answer it, discuss it here live on the show. So definitely love to have that. But also, too, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Again, it's free to do, and make sure you don't miss out whenever we release any new NC State content. And also, too, if you haven't checked out the Madison Hayes interviews yet, that is a must watch. As we found out that in terms of Howling Cow flavors, that she has an interesting opinion. So if you don't know what we mean by that, go check it out and you'll learn what we talked about. So and then also too, if you don't mind as well, please give this video a like, so that way YouTube will put this video in front of more NC State fans, and give us a follow, Tuffy Talk Now, on Twitter and Instagram. But as always, y'all, we really do appreciate your support and joining us here. So as always, back y'all, we'll see y'all soon. All right.